My name's Bobby King. I'm the Minnesota State Director for Solar United Neighbors. The goals for tonight is to go over the basics of solar technology, how the solar co-op process works, and the economics of solar. Usually takes about an hour and 15 to 20 minutes. So we'll be done by 8. Vincent, we'll go forward a slide. So just housekeeping. If you want to ask a question, you can do it via chat. And the default setting for chat is just to go to the hosts and panelists. So if you can change that to everyone and just put in your name, where you're from, and if you want to say a sentence about your strongest interest in solar, that would be great. I'm going to do it. I'm doing it while I'm talking. And you can ask a question that way. We'll monitor the chat. There's also a Q&A button. And I think you should be able to unmute yourself and just speak up. So I'm just gonna, we got Sharon Matheson from Duluth is here. I'm gonna give people time just to get this figured out, because I wish we were all in the same room together and seeing each other, but we're not. So want to make sure everyone's able to ask the questions they want to ask. And all right, we got Duluth. Anyone from Minneapolis here? Okay, we got some Minneapolis here. Oh, previously in Maryland had solar. Yeah, Ben Hoyne, Richmond, Solar United Neighbors staff. In Colorado right now. All right, missing the cold. And if you can't see the chat, just open up the chat. Grand Marais, Duluth. All right. So again, make sure you check the to everyone box in the chat. You got the Q&A, and you should be able to unmute yourself and ask a question too. And we'll just take questions as we go along. If you put a question in chat and you don't get an answer, ask it again. This stuff scrolls by and it gets missed. And we're recording this session too, and we'll share it with folks that can't make it, and some folks like to review it. Let's go to the next slide, Vincent. So this is a webinar for 2 different solar co-ops we're doing at the same time, the Duluth and Arrowhead Solar Co-op and the Twin Cities Area Solar Co-op. And important to how we do our solar co-ops is we work with local partners that have some pretty deep roots in the community. We've got roots and they're getting deeper, but we've been in Minnesota now for about 4 years. So we really like to partner with groups that share our interests and want to help folks go solar. So in the Duluth and Arrowhead Solar Co-op, the partners are the Cook County Local Energy Project, One Roof Community Housing, Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, and the Minnesota Renewable Energy Society. Some of these partners are here with us, and I'll have them say a few words in just a bit. Vincent, what's the, and the Twin Cities Region Solar Co-op is Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, the Minnesota Renewable Energy Society, and the city of Minneapolis. Someone's from Aruba, nice, making us jealous. Yeah, but now in Minneapolis. Next slide there, Vincent. Brooke Tapp is here from One Roof Community Housing in Duluth. Brooke, you want to say a little bit about One Roof and your being a partner here?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Brooke, and welcome to looking into a solar co-op. Congratulations on that. So One Roof is a partner up in the Duluth area, and we also have houses in Grand Marais. So we're an affordable home ownership nonprofit. And our partnership is, one, we do have a lending branch, so we can do financing if you need a loan for your solar. But mostly we're here as a partner to make solar accessible for lower income homeowners. And so as One Roof, we do have homeowners who would income qualify, and we want to help make that a possibility, because solar can be expensive but it can be accessible for all homeowners. So that's what we're here for.
Bobby, you're muted.
And Brooke, how many folks went solar last year we did the co-op last year? Was it?
Yeah, we had 8 income qualified folks, and then one more One Roof community homeowner, so 9 total.
Excellent. Brett, you want to say a little bit about Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light?
Sure, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Brett Pence. I'm with Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, as Bobby says. I live in Duluth. I'm our Northern Minnesota staff person. And we are a nonprofit that works, we're based in the faith community and work on the issue of climate justice. And one of the things we would like to do is work on practical projects and try to bring a justice slant to that. So we've worked in solar a long time. We really believe in the model of solar group buyer, solar co-ops. And I also happen to be a One Roof homeowner. And I also happen to be, as well as a resource on this, my house will be one of the houses looked at in terms of a solar array for this project this year. So involved on multiple fronts. And I'm going to talk more about some of the justice components we're excited about as we go along.
Thanks, Brett. Next slide there, Vincent. And Cook County Local Energy Project, both Jesse and Kat are here from Cook County Local Energy Project.
Yeah, so I'm Jessie Carlson, and I'm currently the coordinator for the Cook County Local Energy Project. But as of the end of the day tomorrow, I'm handing the baton over to Kat Mayo. She's on this call too. Kat, want to wave?
Hello.
That's Kat. So the Cook County Local Energy Project, we're a nonprofit organization. We're not actually a county entity. We're a nonprofit, a 501c3. And what we do is we coordinate and we catalyze, we basically connect resources to the people who need them in order to promote and facilitate the increased use of renewable energy and the application of energy efficient practices and technologies within Cook County. So we serve anyone who lives or works in Cook County, whether those are residents or businesses or nonprofits. And the way we do that is by partnering with like-minded organizations or with anyone in the community who's interested in our work. So if anyone on this call today is living in Cook County and you would like some hands-on assistance or just ask a question about the Solar United Neighbors buying co-op, you can certainly email the Cook County Local Energy Project and Kat will help you out or call us. So check out our website. It is cookcountylocalenergy.org. And that'll connect you to Kat and she'll be able to help you. Otherwise, the email is localenergy@boreal.org.
Thanks, Jesse. Kat, did you want to say a little bit too, or?
I think she mostly covered all of it. I am brand new as of this week, but I am really looking forward to helping and serving however I can to whoever is in the Cook County area and needs some assistance and guidance.
Excellent, thanks. And Vincent, I live here in Minnesota. I'm the Minnesota State Director, but there's a team of Sun staff that are dedicated to working in Minnesota. Vincent is one of them on our Go Solar crew, kind of the solar expertise crew. Vincent, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. And I won't turn my camera on because I don't want to upset this balance that I've struck with everything working on the tech side.
I know.
But my name is Vincent Yurkovich. I'm based in Kansas. I have been at Solar United Neighbors for a few years, and I'm just now starting to work with Bobby in Minnesota. So I will basically just be helping with the execution of the co-ops. And if you're watching this webinar and you sign up for the co-op, you may hear from me by email if you email our team inbox, or just in general when we do our own outreach. So happy to be here with everyone and to be learning more about the market dynamics and potential for solar in Minnesota.
Thanks, Vincent. All right, let's get that next slide up. So just a little bit about Solar United Neighbors. We got started in 2007, and our executive director, Anya Schoolman, her son, Diego, the young fella in the blue shirt, saw an inconvenient truth, came home to his mom. They lived in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Washington, D.C., and said, we got to go solar. And they wanted to. They started looking into it. They got different answers from different people at the city about what was allowed and what was possible, different answers from installers. And it seemed confusing and daunting. So her bent is to organize, and she organized her neighborhood, a group of about 50 folks in her neighborhood. And for a couple of years, they just dug into how it works and what it takes. And at the end of the process, 45 of them had gone solar. And the story started getting media attention, and she started getting calls from nearby and around the country on, we'd like to do something similar. We want to go solar too. And kind of out of that, she ran it out of her house for a little bit. Then it became an organization. And now we're, 40 plus staff. And we have programs in 11 states and work nationally too. So it's come a long way since then. But to me, the important part of the story is at core to who we are. We really believe that by working together, we're going to be able to accomplish more than we can individually. And next slide there, Vincent. Here's kind of how we think about ourselves now. We're a community of people building a new energy system with rooftop solar at the cornerstone. We help people go solar, join together, and fight for their energy rights. And when we're talking about fighting for their energy rights, we're talking about creating federal, state, and local policy that makes more solar possible. So that can be creating new laws, or sometimes there's barriers to going solar. Like, for example, in Minnesota, many homeowners associations block people from going solar. And we're working to get legislation that would give HOA homeowners the right to go solar. So if you're interested at all in policy, we have a webinar coming up on January 27th at 6:30 with members to talk about what we're going to be doing at the state legislative session this year. And the chair of the House Environment, Climate and Energy Committee, is going to join us, Representative Jamie Long. I just dropped the link to that Zoom webinar in the registration link in the chat. What's the next slide there, Vincent? And before we jump into the meat of it too, I just want to say a little bit about equity, and especially since the murder of George Floyd, equity has been something that we've been having a national conversation about. And we want to recognize that our energy policy has disproportionately harmed people of color, and they haven't seen the benefit. So as we work for a new energy system, we want to not only be mindful of not repeating that problem, but thinking about how can we make amends or catch people up. And Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light has really been a leader on this issue over the years. Brett, do you want to say something about what you guys are working on and how you think about it?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. One of the reasons we get excited about this kind of process and working with Solar United Neighbors and the other partners on this is because we do think solar is a solution. We know it's a solution for the technical problem of climate change, with too much greenhouse gases being emitted, but it also is a potential solution to help address inequity and inequality in society. And so one thing that is really great about this is, and Bobby will talk about this process as we go along, but anyone who's involved in the process, you as a group get to choose the values and the properties you want from your installer. So for instance, the Duluth installer has already been chosen by the co-op up here, and that installer is offering panels that are made on the Iron Range. So I can support our local economy while I'm putting solar on the house and start to address some of the geographic inequities and inequalities that exist in this region. And that can spin off into many, many different ways. So yeah, we just think this is a great idea to be able to present those opportunities to people so that they can choose them.
Thanks, Brett. Vincent, you want to advance us a slide? So the presentation is going to be in 3 parts. First, we're going to go over the basics of solar technology. I think about it like you don't really need to know how to take your car apart, but it's good to know what a catalytic converter is. So when your mechanic talks to you about it, you know what's going on. So we're going to give you kind of just the basics of how things work. So when your solar installer talks to you about the components, you're clear about what's what. Talk about how the solar co-op works to make going solar easier and more affordable, and then run through the economics of solar. Hoyt, I see your question, and I'll address that as we go. Yeah, pretty quickly, actually. So tonight we're talking about solar photovoltaic or PV solar, which takes sun and turns it into solar electricity. There's also solar technology that heats water, and some people use it to heat their swimming pool. Other folks use it for hot water. That's also a system that's got many benefits, but it's not what we're focused on with the co-op. Next slide there. So here's the basics of a solar array, how it works on your home. So on your roof, or it could be on the ground, you'll have a solar array that produces direct current, DC current. So it'll flow to an inverter, which converts it into alternating current, which is the kind of current used in your home. From there, it'll go to your electrical panel. And electricity wants to go to the closest draw. So if you're toasting bread or have your lights on or running a heater so your pipes don't freeze down in the basement, that power is going to go there. And you're going to use all the power your panels are producing. If they're not producing it, if they're producing less than what you're using. But if they're producing more than what you use, the excess power or that power will go to your utility meter and back onto the grid. So that power is then essentially used by your neighbors. So a lot of people focus on how solar power for your home is about self-sufficiency, but it's also about creating a system for powering the grid that's diffuse and decentralized, more localized, which is what we're going to have to do to address climate change. So there was a chat question earlier, and yeah, solar power, solar at your home can reduce demands on the grid. You're reducing what you need, and you're also sharing some power back to the grid. In fact, when California was experiencing the wildfires and getting brownouts, the governor asked, no, not the governor, the power company asked solar homeowners that had batteries to release some power back onto the grid. And by doing that, they helped avoid a blackout. So we think at Solar United Neighbors, that's the future of the grid. If we're going to create a grid that's sustainable to meet climate change and also more economically just, where the benefits of producing power are more diffuse. So this is 2 terms that are confusing and worth just getting straight in your head. Kilowatt and kilowatt hours. So kilowatts are a measurement of power. So like a 60 kilowatt light bulb. And kilowatt hours is a measure of usage of that power. So a kilowatt hour is using 1,000 kilowatts for 1 hour. So if you had 1,000 kilowatt light bulb and you ran it for 1 hour, you'd use 1 kilowatt hour. So when you get a proposal for a solar array on your home, they're going to say, you've got a 5.6 kilowatt array that we think will work great for your home. And it's going to produce 6,800 kilowatt hours a year. Kind of just made those numbers up. And the amount of kilowatt hours, of course, will depend on, you know, how much shade the panels are getting, how directly they face the sun, and some other things. But those two numbers will be important for you to look at on your proposal and understand the size of the system in kilowatts, and then the average, the estimate of how many kilowatt hours a year it will produce. You want to advance? There we go. So the first part of our solar array, of course, is the panels. You'll see on the left there is the basic components of a panel: a junction box that's used to connect the panels, a back sheet, encapsulant that's used to fuse the solar cells to the back sheet, then another sheet of encapsulant, then glass, then the frame. Panels are like about the size of an American flag, something like that. And of course, when you put those panels together, you get a solar array. Panels typically have a warranty of 25 years, a production warranty of 25 years. And what that means is, and it's usually in the 80–85% range. What that means is at the end of 85 years, I'm sorry, at the end of 25 years, the panel will produce 85% of what it did on day one. So the technology is really advanced, and the warranties are pretty impressive, and the manufacturers fully expect them to last at least 25 years or more. Let's go to the next slide. The next is the inverter, and that's what will take the direct current that's produced by the panel and turn it into alternating current. There's two basic kinds. There's a string inverter, where all the panels would be wired to that one inverter, and that inverter would then feed into your panel, your electric panel in your home. Microinverters are inverters that go on each panel, and then there is kind of a combination of a string inverter and a DC optimizer. And the next slides will kind of explain a little bit more of the pros and cons of those. So a central string inverter, you can see how it's wired. The panels are wired in series. They go to that one inverter, and then that'll go to your electrical panel. I mean, the benefit of that is it's less parts, you know, less to break down. The drawback is that because of the way electricity works, if one panel is shaded, partially shaded, all the panels are only allowed to send that reduced amount of electricity to the inverter. So it's kind of like a little bit like the old style Christmas tree lights, where if you got a problem with one light, you'll have a problem with the string. These work good on ground mounts, where they're, you know, oriented directly towards the sun and they get no shade. They're ideal for that. Next slide there. And then the microinverters, you'll see there's a microinverter on each panel. And then there's also what they call module level power optimizers with a central inverter, kind of combining the two technologies. When you get a proposal from your solar installer, they're going to propose what really the best solution is for you, the best type of inverter. It's just good to know what they're talking about when they review it with you. Inverters are typically warranted for around 10 to 25 years, depending on the model. Go to that next slide. So the system will connect directly to your electrical panel. Most folks' electrical panels don't need an upgrade. You know, they've got enough capacity to handle the addition of the solar panel feeding in. Sometimes you'll need an upgrade. That usually adds $1,000 to $2,000 to the cost of the job. So significant, but usually not a deal breaker. The next slide. Then the next part of a system is getting it on your roof. So you can see the metal bars running, parallel with the roof line. Those are the rails that the solar panels will go on, and you could see someone affixing the solar panels to those rails. And those rails, of course, have to be affixed to your roof. Hit the next slide there, Vincent. And there's many different ways to do that. The important thing I think to know is that these products have really been tested well over the years. Nobody's figuring it out as they go anymore. And for every roof, there's a manufactured solution that's undergoing some pretty thorough testing. On the top left, you'll see flashing for an asphalt roof. Below that, you'll see a clamp that goes on a metal seam roof. Metal seam roofs are really great for solar because there's no roof penetration at all. And then there's a ballast and two other examples of some. Actually, I don't know anyone who's ever used those two, but I'm sure it comes up. Yeah, you can see some panels on a flat roof going across from wall structure to wall structure. A ground mounted solar. Ground mount is a great option if you have the space. You can orient the panels, perfectly to get the best amount of sun. They're a little bit expensive, more expensive up front because you got more material costs in the ground mount racking system, but they're a good option if you can afford them. And then someone asked about snow. We might as well talk about that now. So when your panels are covered with snow, they're not going to produce electricity. Panels are very slippery, so snow will slide off, and it'll depend on, of course, the angle of your panels as to how quickly that happens. Because we get such little sun in Minnesota, most people find that it's not worth trying to get the snow off. And the minimal return you get is not worth the hassle at all. And Brett, I should have looked it up, but you referenced the study last time. If you remember those numbers?
No, I don't remember those exact numbers, but it was a study out of the UP, out of Michigan Tech, and we've run studies here in Duluth actually when I worked with a Department of Energy grant on solar, and it's surprisingly low, even though of course you can get if the snow is covering the panels don't operate. But depending on the angle, they tend to slide. The snow tends to slide off fairly soon. And the other thing to know is that we get a lot of solar here, but we don't get a lot of solar in the winter. So it just doesn't affect your annual, even if you have snow on the panels for, let's say, 4 or 5 days, like some close to me at UMD have had, it doesn't really affect your annual rating that much, your annual production. So yeah, it's not a big factor in terms of annual production.
Thanks. Go to the next slide. So what's a good roof for solar? South facing is best. West and east will work because panels have become so much more efficient over the years. You want as little shading as possible. What we're looking for is kind of unobstructed roof space or space between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. when that's most of the sun is happening, and at least 200 square feet. If you can't get up to at least 200 square feet, the system gets so small, it's usually not worth doing, and a lot of installers won't even handle it. We recommend that your roof have at least 10 years of life left in it. When your installer gives you a proposal, they're going to calculate what the payback period on your array is. So this array will have paid for itself through the value of the electricity it produces in 12 years, 8 years. It's usually between 8 to 12 years. We really suggest that your roof have, if it's a 10-year or if it's a 12-year payback, your roof have at least 12 years of life left in it. The installer can take the system down for the new roof and reinstall it. And there's a cost associated with that of, it's usually several $1,000s. So again, it's not a deal breaker, but it's a real amount of money. Does it void the warranty on the new roof, Shar asked? That's a good question. I don't know. I just got a new roof. And I didn't see them talking about that. Has anyone got any experience with that?
That was a concern of mine. I have not, even though I've been a solar advocate for many years, I have not had solar in my house because I need to replace the roof. So replaced it last year, and that was one thing I asked the company. With the shingle was Malarkey, is the brand, and they said no, it would not. Nor the brand warranty nor the work warranty of the contractor. Neither one said it would void the warranty there. So it was great. But yeah, I would encourage people to check. Check
Yeah,
like I did. Yeah.
And the good thing about it is solar panels are taking the beating after you put them up. So underneath that section of your roof, the roof life should be extended. I saw someone talk about there is a company that makes a solar product that doesn't require any holes in the roof. The installers that's a proprietary product that only that company offers. And I'm just spacing the name out of them, their name. And the installers that bid on the co-ops, that's not something they offer. So people can look into that. And if you want to look into it and get a bid from that and want us to help you review it, we're happy to do it. Someone asked about solar shingles. I don't know that you can even get solar shingles in Minnesota. We haven't seen their newer technology, and we haven't, from what I've looked at, they don't produce enough yet. The technology isn't there on them. Next slide there. So trying to look at the questions too. I see. So it's important to know that when the power goes out, your array shuts down. So that's so you don't backfeed electricity into the grid. And when a lines person is working on the lines, they don't get electrocuted. There are some inverters. One of them is called a Sunny Boy that you can get that will automatically, when the power goes down, will stop feeding power to the grid and only feed it to your house. But if you want power when the power goes out, you're talking about batteries, getting batteries. Next slide. So the value of battery storage is really backup power for you. You don't save money or get paid to help the grid with batteries. They add cost. But you might want storage if you have frequent utility outages. You have some critical loads at home, like pumps or medical equipment, or you're just a person who is interested in emergency or disaster preparedness and wants to weather that with some on-site electrical storage. Next slide there. So here's one example of a battery system. A 6 kilowatt battery bank, 6 kilowatt hour battery bank that's recharged by a 5.6 kilowatt system daily, solar array daily. Without sun shining, they'd have 1 day of power. And what to run a refrigerator, small microwave, some lights and outlets, and a cable modem. So when you get a battery, what they'll do is they'll create a circuit in your house that battery powers, and you'll put the things that you want to maintain power on that circuit. Anything that creates heat, stove, dryer, electric water heater, they're big users of electricity. Usually those wouldn't be something that you choose to power with your battery. Next slide there. And here's an example of some costs, so you can see it adds substantially to the cost of a system. Battery technology is getting better very, very quickly. It's changing constantly. We have a guide on it that's pretty thorough. Vincent knows something about batteries. We have another person on staff that really loves battery storage technology. So if it's something you're interested in and want help on, we can do it. All the installers that we have ever selected for a co-op, batteries are something they offer.
Bobby, can I add one thing?
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
Just if you are a Minnesota Power customer, one thing to know is that they're changing our residential rates starting at I believe September of this year, so that you pay different rates depending on what time of the day you use energy.
Mm.
And in that case, batteries can be utilized to use less power during the day when it's really expensive to buy from the grid, and then then it allows you to recharge a battery when it's really cheap as well. So that can be another factor to kind of look into a battery. So just wanted to let that know for folks at Minnesota Power customers. So.
Yeah, exactly. And the battery technology does that for you. It's not like you got to go monitor the time and switch it on. They're designed to help you achieve that. Next.
Know if that new charge or that rate structure will have a demand component, a demand charge component. That's another thing that batteries can help alleviate is a demand charge, which is a non-bypassable service charge, not based on the volume or the time when you're using the electricity, on top of the other benefit of time of use.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if you do, Brett.
Yeah, if you're a residential customer, you probably don't have that. But if you're a commercial customer, like a church or a small business or something, you have a demand charge, and batteries can be really helpful for that. So if you're one of those people, that would be good to know. Yeah.
All right, next slide. So just to review real quick, you got the solar array on your roof producing that local sustainable power from the sun, direct current, which will go to your solar inverter, which turns it into alternating current to be used in your house. It flows into your electrical panel. You'll use what you need, and you'll feed what you don't need through your utility meter to be used by your neighbors. So your house becomes a little power plant of renewable solar energy for you and your community. And in Minnesota, we have something called net metering. We were actually the first state to adopt net metering in the 80s. That's one of the main incentives you have to go solar. What net metering basically means is that when you generate more electricity than you use, it goes into your back onto the grid, and you're paid basically retail for that electricity. Some folks feel that the retail rate's unfair. We don't, and because the value of what you're producing is really premium. You're producing local energy and you're producing renewable energy, so it has a lot of value to it, and you should be compensated for it. And in Minnesota, you are. Next slide. So really, it's pretty simple. The amount of electricity used minus the amount of electricity produced will be your monthly electric bill. And that can be a negative number where the power company owes you money. Power companies have different options on how you settle up. Some let you do it month to month. Others do it once a year. Some let you choose. But that's how net metering works. We'll just pause and go through some of these frequently asked questions and make sure we got to everyone's questions. So again, warranties on the solar panel, there'll be a product warranty, usually of 10 years, and then a production warranty of 25 years. And it varies from panel to panel, but it's usually around the 85% range. They'll be guaranteed to produce on year 25, 85% or 82% or whatever the warranty is if they did day one. Homeowners insurance, most people find that it doesn't go up, or that if it does go up, they can switch to an homeowners insurance where it doesn't go up. That's something you'll just want to look into with your insurer. Maintenance, so there's no moving parts on solar, so there's not very much maintenance. There's no really ongoing maintenance that you're required to go out and do. Things do break down on anything. Most, I don't know about most, many solar installers will monitor your equipment for you as part of the package. And as long as you're connected to Wi-Fi, it will constantly be sending information to you and the solar installer about how they're producing. And a lot of times the installer will know there's a problem before the homeowner does and make them aware of it and fix it. I've never heard of Rain-X be applied to the panels. Might be something that somebody needs to do some experimenting on. That stuff does work. I guess I'd make sure it doesn't void any part of the warranty to try it out. So systems are the panels are warranted for 25 years, so expect them to last that long and maybe longer. Any other questions before we move past the technology part? All right, let's go to the next slide, Vincent. How the solar co-op works. All right. So why would anyone go solar with the co-op? People do it to get a great value on installation. We'll go through this later, but installers are bidding on the group's business. There's support from me and Vincent and others at Sun if you have questions. Connect with other fellow solar enthusiasts, and doing it part of a group gives you more of a feeling of being part of a growing solar movement. Panels are designed to take hail, and I don't know if panels being damaged by hail. I don't know if anyone's got more information on that.
No, you're correct. They're designed to handle hail, but you get a big enough hailstone, I've seen damage to them, and then it becomes a part of your homeowner's insurance, so that's why it's important to learn about that.
In Colorado, where I'm also working, Bobby, it's more of an issue just because the hailstones can be quite large. And like it was said, if it is something that needs to come off the roof because of a hailstorm, it will be covered by your homeowner's insurance.
Okay, next slide there, Vincent. Here's kind of the timeline or the pieces of the solar co-op. So, of course, first thing is to learn about the solar co-op, and attend an info session or watch a recording of a webinar or read up on it. Then if you decide you want to go solar with the co-op, you sign up at the webpage for the solar co-op. I'll ask for your address. If you have a utility bill that you're able to upload when you do it, that's really helpful. Don't let that hang you up. If you don't have it, you can do it later, but it's great if you have it then. And then we'll ask you some questions about what's your priority with choosing an installer, commitment to equity, price, quality equipment, and let us know that. And also if you want to be on the selection committee, and that's the group of co-op members that will review the bids and choose the installer. So, it takes 10, 15 minutes to fill that out. Once you sign up, Vincent will do a satellite review of your property and let you know if it's suitable for solar. If you get an email back saying you're not suitable and you've got some questions about that, be sure to let us know. Satellite imagery isn't always up to date, so it's good if you've got questions about why that determination happened to ask some questions. there's no cost to join the co-op, and there's no obligation to go solar once you join the co-op. The third thing is to help us grow the solar co-op. One of the main ways the co-op grows is through co-op members sharing it with just the many circles of people that everyone is a part of. I share it with my PTA group that we got this opportunity. I share it on Nextdoor. I shoot it on some Facebook groups I'm a part of. So we're all part of different networks. And actually, I always find that there's people that have been thinking about solar, but don't know where to start. They really appreciate learning about the opportunity. So we encourage you to do that. After we get enough members, we'll put out the request for proposals to solar installers. And any solar installer can bid. They sign up with us to receive notification, and I usually call around and let installers know it's up on our website and encourage them to bid. We've over the years developed a pretty slick RFP proposal that installers have to fill out that really allow the co-op members to compare apples to apples in terms of equipment and costs, ability to do the job, history of the business, years in business, that type of thing. The reason that installers are really interested in the business of the co-op is, number one, it's a group of people that have been educated about solar. They don't have to do what I'm doing with you. You've gone through this. And then we've weeded out folks whose homes just aren't suitable for solar. So it's some hot leads in a very competitive business. And that's worth a lot to solar installers. The selection committee of co-op members will review the bids, and it's the members that will choose the installer. I participate, and other Sun staff will be on there to explain things and ask questions, but it's the co-op members that will make the decision. So, and this again is kind of some of the things that the selection committee looks at. And when the selection committee reviews the bids, they'll have the input from all the members, what every member gave when they signed up. So we'll know how many people value quick commitment to equity, how many people's they had a strong preference for good warranties, experience, price, equipment quality, or a local company, etc. So who determines the geographic scope of a co-op? Karen is asking. As long as many installers will serve the area, that's a viable area for a co-op. Pre-COVID, we would do these meetings in person, so that would limit the scope of the area. We didn't want people to have to drive more than, in the cities, 30 minutes. In a rural area, people willing to drive 45 minutes or more for a meeting. So that the radius of who would attend an in-person meeting kind of limited the co-op. But now that we're doing everything virtually, that we've been able to expand the size, geographic area of a co-op. So this co-op is the larger Twin Cities area, kind of the 7-county metro area. In Minneapolis and in Duluth, it's the Duluth and it's at Arrowhead, basically, a little bit south of Duluth and going up the North Shore. And on the for the Duluth and Arrowhead Solar Co-op, the installer has been chosen, Wolf Track Energy, and they're calling and meeting with co-op members now and creating proposals for them. So there's a question about, once the solar is installed, are there any advantages to homeowners for being a co-op member? We're willing to help any solar owner that calls and talks to us and wants some help. I will say we're more responsive to co-op members. Just you put a little more into it with us, and if trouble does come up, we'll go to bat for you. If you're not getting a satisfactory response from the installer, we'll give a call and try to work it out for you or with you. And, sorry, for the Twin Cities area co-op, we have the bids are out, the request for bids are out. We're gonna get them back on the 17th. And the selection committee is gonna meet sometime towards the end of January, and we'll have an installer selected by the beginning of February. Any questions about that before we move on to solar economics? Any more questions about the co-op? Great, let's go over kind of the economics of solar. So that blue line is the cost of solar 2010 to 2018, and you can really see how it's plummeted. Emily, no, we haven't selected the installer for the Twin Cities area solar co-op yet. We've put the request for bids out. So installers now are preparing bids for the Twin Cities solar co-op. So you can see the price of solar has really plummeted over the years. That's the blue line. We really track to the penny what co-op members pay. So you can see the red line there. Starting in 2014, we started capturing that data, and you can see, get an idea of the savings. So Emily, we've got for the Twin Cities co-op, we'll get the bids back from installers on the 17th of this month. It takes staff about a week for us to go through those and combine them in a pretty slick spreadsheet for people to compare them, call references, do that kind of due diligence. So usually the week after that so it'd be the last week of January, first week of February, the selection committee will meet, review the bids, and pick an installer. So if you sign up now, for example, the installer wouldn't be already selected, but if you wait until February, they probably will be. Then this slide kind of explains why the co-op works. The line in its totality is the cost of solar per watt over the years. And you can see it's gone down from 7 to under 3. This is nationally. The yellow is the system components. So the cost of the components have dropped dramatically as it's become standardized. More people are making them on a larger scale. They've actually become cheaper and better. The labor's gone down too as things have become standardized and the industry has strong training programs. But what hasn't gone down is the soft costs of procuring customers. So a pool of very interested customers is something that installers are very interested in. Here's an example of pricing. Let's just look at the 8 kilowatt column. So we figure 320 a watt in this example. It'd be $25,600 for that system. The other large incentive that's available now is the federal solar investment tax credit, which gives you 26% of the cost of the system as a tax credit. So if you, let's say this example, if you owe $10,000, you subtract $6,650 from what you owe. It's not a deduction from your taxable income. It's a direct deduction in what you owe. It isn't reimbursable. So let's say you owed $5,000 in taxes. You don't get $1,650 back, but you can roll that credit over from year to year until you use it up. So next year, we'll go through that in a little bit. So the minute you turn on that system, it's generating electricity, which is worth money. So in this example, the estimated first year of electricity savings is $1,200. 10 years of savings, $12,800. Then over 25 years, $35,800. And that's factoring in an estimated increase of power over the years, the cost of electricity. So in the 8 kilowatt size system, you'll see the net profit from over 25 years is 16,850. Your installer will have these numbers in their proposal for your proposed system. We require as part of our contract with them that, for example, on the electricity estimation, they use a real reasonable inflation value. We don't want them overestimating the value of electricity over those 25 years. No, they're not. It doesn't figure in that present value. No. Right now, the tax credit's at 26%. Next, 2022, 26% goes down to 22% in 2023, and then for residential, it's eliminated in 2024. If Build Back Better passes, it should be extended in the out years. But as most people know, that's in play now, and we're hopeful that some very good solar policy gets passed, but it's up in the air. Someone asked about recycling. Really solar's taken off over the last 10 years. So these systems that have been installed are still within their 25-year life cycle. And recycling is something the industry takes seriously. There is a company in Wisconsin that started that specializes in recycling panels. One thought is that in the United States, people will replace panels that because they can just get more efficient panels that are worth it in terms of the money they'll make, but the used panels still have life in them. And there'll be a resale market for those. They're also working on, panels are pretty uniform. So they're working on ways to figure out how to deassemble them and take the pieces of them that are still worth reusing. So it's something that hasn't been figured out, but there's a lot of thought in figuring it out. Here's an example of net profit using financing with some different systems. The point of this slide really is that it's kind of obvious. A solar panel can still pay for itself and generate income in a 25-year period if you borrow, but not going to generate as much as if you pay cash, obviously. But financing, it can still make sense with financing, and most people finance. Have I missed any questions? I'm sorry, I don't know if people can unmute and say, hey, you missed my question. Yeah, all the co-ops are, the Duluth co-op and the Twin Cities co-op are still open for membership until spring. So in both the Duluth area and the Twin Cities area, there's different incentives available beyond net metering and the federal tax credit, which are your two big incentives. And it's helpful to think of them in two different categories. There's production incentives that you'll get paid over the years based on how much solar power your panels produce. And there's upfront incentives that you get after the system is installed. They're paid directly to you and just reduce that initial cost. And we'll go through what's available in different utility areas. Hit that. So if you're an Excel customer, there's a program called Solar Rewards. I don't know, in 2000, people may remember this, there was a large statewide movement to demand that Excel honor its commitment not to increase any nuclear waste storage at Prairie Island. They committed to, we're supposed to develop a national repository, which nobody wants. And so it hadn't been created. They'd reached their limit. And there was a movement to say they need to honor that commitment. At the last minute at the legislature, there was an agreement that would allow them to increase their storage of nuclear waste at Prairie Island, but they had to contribute to something called a renewable development account, which is money the state would use to transition us to renewable power. So that's where the money from this solar rewards program comes. And it has helped jumpstart the solar industry in the Excel territory area pretty significantly. The way it works now is you'll get 4 cents a kilowatt hour. They'll pay you 4 cents a kilowatt hour for 10 years. In order to get that, you have to agree to limit the size of your solar array to 120% of your annual usage. In Minnesota, you can go up to 40 kilowatts, which is a large system, and still get net metering. So here's an example of how that solar rewards might work on a 5 kilowatt system. You'll see that cost, if we figure 320 a watt is 15,700, the tax credit 4,082, $750 worth of electricity is generated. Then you would get about $248 at 4 cents a kilowatt hour from solar rewards, and you get that for 10 years. So looks like some math there is wrong. Yeah. Oh, no, it's right. There we go. So you get $2,480 roughly over the 10 years. Last year, for the first time ever, solar rewards ran out. It used to be at 7. So they reduced the amount from 7 cents, which it was last year, to 4 cents in the hope that it won't run out this year. But it looks like it might run out this year. The applications just opened up, 5 days ago, and they flooded in. So it's not going to run out in the next several months, but it might run out by the end of the year. So I'm saying that because if you're in the Twin Cities, if you're in the XL and you're going to go solar, it's going to behoove you to get a proposal in February and make a decision sooner rather than later. February should be plenty of time. Next slide. In Minneapolis, the city has a green cost share program, which is a grant that Sun will apply for and help Minneapolis homeowners get. And it will pay you 20 cents a kilowatt hour for the estimated first year annual production. So let's say your system is estimated to produce 5,000 kilowatt hours the first year, multiply that by 20 cents, that's what you'll get. Or if you live in a green zone, I'll explain that in a second, it's 35 cents, or in a City of Lakes Land Trust home. Anybody, if you are a City of Lakes Land Trust homeowner, put that in the chat for me. I'd just like to get an idea if anyone from the Land Trust is. We know Brett is, but anyone else? So let's hit the next slide.
Bobby, Barb has a question about Minnesota Power's rebates.
Yeah, we're going to do those next.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So this is the green zones in the Twin Cities, and they are areas that the city has determined are disproportionately people of color who've disproportionately been harmed by pollution. And they're trying to create incentives to address that disparity. Next slide. So this is an estimate of what a non-green zone payment would be. So with a 5 kilowatt system, it's going to be around $1,200, just to give you some idea. Next slide. Is there a question hovering up there? Well, someone asked when they should go to the website to fill out a questionnaire. So yeah, if you're want to install solar this year and you live in the Twin Cities area, Duluth area, the time to do it is right now. Excel also has an income qualified program, which pays $2 a watt upfront. It's a pretty healthy incentive. And they use the same criteria as the federal government uses to qualify for heating assistance. So it's a 3-month look back. And there you'll see the income guidelines there. So actually, if you qualify for heating assistance, you should apply for it and get it. Most of the money, a lot of people that qualify for heating assistance don't get it. A lot of the money goes unused. So it's not like if you do get it, you're taking it from someone else. But with COVID, a lot more people qualify than realize it. And also some folks on a fixed income. We always find some folks qualify and didn't know it. But if you meet these income guidelines, you're eligible for the income qualified solar rewards of $2 a watt. Go to the next slide. So here's an example of what that incentive might look like for Minneapolis, Excel area. A 5 kilowatt system, 15,700. The green cost share would get you 2,187. Then the solar rewards would get you 10,000. So the cost to the owner for that system would be 3,513 bucks. So it's getting you pretty close to getting you a paid for system. If you live in Dakota Electric Co-op area, they also have a incentive. They pay 50 cents a watt up to 4,000, and they pay it each month at 8 cents per kilowatt hour over 10 years. And they figure out how much they're going to pay you over 10 years by giving you 50 cents a watt to the size of your system. They kind of combine two different ideas there. And here's the Minnesota Power Solar Sense rebate program. So it opens on March 1st. The maximum rebate is 10,000 bucks. And they give you 50 cents a kilowatt hour for your estimated first year of production. And it'll open on March 1st at midnight and be gone by 12:30 12:30 at night. So if you are in Minnesota Power area, you want to go solar, you want to have a chance at that, you need to join the co-op and get a proposal from the installer right away, sign a contract in time for them to get your paperwork ready to be at their computer midnight March 1 and load you up. And there'll be a limited number of people that can get that. It's going to go fast. Here's kind of what that would look like in terms of how much it would pay you. So for a 4 kilowatt system at $3, figure $12,000. In Duluth, a 4 kilowatt system is going to generate about 5,123 kilowatt hours a year. There's a program that you're required to use to figure that out. Your installer figures it out. So 5,123 kilowatt hours times 56 is 2,869. So that's what your Minnesota Power Solar Sense payment would be. And the federal tax credit's 3,120. So you can see it covers almost half the cost of the system if you can get both incentives. What's the next slide? Then Minnesota Power also has a low income grant program. So especially if you live in a land trust home and you meet these income guidelines, there's a pretty good chance we can get you a grant that would cover the cost of the system. If you meet those grant guidelines and don't live in a land trust home, we haven't done that before, but we're willing to try. You just need to talk to me and let me know, and we'll see what we can do there. Lastly, financing options. There's a lot of financing options for solar, and there's more all the time. Just home equity line of credit is one. We have a nonprofit called the Center for Energy and the Environment in Minnesota that does solar loans. A lot of people use a home equity line of credit. If you go to our website, solarunitedneighbors.org/financing, we've got a lot of resources there. On that first page, you'll find stuff that's nationally available, and you scroll down and you'll find such stuff specific to Minnesota. Next slide. Here's just an example of some. Like I said, the Center for Energy and the Environment, Members Cooperative Credit Union in Duluth has a solar loan. And then Affinity Plus Credit Union and Highway Credit Union have something called the CU Green Solar Loans. A lot of solar installers will offer financing through a third party. We really suggest shopping around rather than just taking theirs right out of the bat. Okay. Yeah, I'm an Affinity member too. I think they're a great credit union. What's next? Next slide. So to join the solar co-op, here's the two web pages: solarunitedneighbors.org/Duluth or /Twin Cities will get you directly to the web page. And then the next slide. We're at 61 members in Duluth, goal of 100. There's kind of what the web page looks like. You just click join the co-op and the questionnaire will pop up. What's next? Then here's the Twin Cities. We're at 44 members. And last slide there. So that's my contact information and phone number. I love talking solar. If you have any questions or want to talk more, reach out, contact me. Any last questions before we wrap up?